everybody, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the greenhouse in the sky where I'm going to do some experimenting with carrots and winter sowing. So I know a lot of folks are really resistant to the idea of doing carrots in winter sowing jugs because they don't like to disturb the roots. I've done it many times. I find that the germination rate that I get from the trapped humidity in these jugs, particularly when I am doing jugs in my spring bank homestead where it's really arid, that it's worth the little bit of extra work. And maybe my carrots get a little tangled. I don't mind as long as I get a good crop that's tasty and bountiful. I don't really care what they look like. But in the interest, because this is something I literally have tons of questions about every single week, especially at this time of the year. It is March, which is the time when you can start getting out your hardy veggies like greens and kales and carrots in a zone 3 agricultural zone. I thought this was appropriate to do right now. I'm going to try to get straighter carrots, so I'm going to do a few experiments here. Normally, what I've done in the past is I sow my carrots in a standard milk jug that's got nice soil. I use ProMix Organic Herb and Veggie because I find it's light. Carrots really do respond to a lighter soil because they do want to have good taproot growth. I usually like to transplant them a little bit sooner, and what I do is I take them out as a block and I cut them in rows and lay them in rows. That does damage some of the roots. I do lose some of the carrots that way, but I will do that. That'll be my experiment one, just to try it again as per usual. Then I thought, well, if I'm going to be cutting them up in the first place, maybe what I could do is divide the milk jug up into the rows prior to them being cut so I don't actually damage the roots as much. So what I've done here is I have taken another milk jug that I used previously and normally would be recycling this point, and I have cut 4 pieces that I've embedded down into the dirt, and I'm going to plant my carrots in rows there, and we'll see how that goes. And the third portion of this experiment is the seed snail. I had so many questions about this, and I've been really looking forward this year into doing an experiment with the seed snail. I'm going to put out a whole bunch of jugs that are both seed snail and standard milk jugs. So here, I'm going to give you a better, closer look at that. I've seen some really amazing results with people using the seed snail, not with the milk jug, but I'm going to try to fuse these two methods together and we'll see what we get. So first I'm going to show you how to actually create one of these, because I did play with it quite a bit and I think I've got the seed snail down. So let me show you how that works. All right, so here is what I've been playing with creating these seed snails, and I think I've got it down here. Luna has made her contribution to this experiment as well because this is one of her feed bags. What you want when you're making your seed snail, it seems to me, and from what I've read, is you want something that's pretty slick. Okay, this is a woven material, but it's pretty slick and pretty tightly woven. And so that the roots won't grow into that. Does that make sense? You don't want to have something like burlap because the roots are going to get trapped in there. The whole point, particularly with carrots, is so that they're not going to get stuck in there and they'll hopefully release well. So I have prepared a milk jug that I'm going to put the seed snail in. And then I basically want my seed snail to be the same width as my milk jug. One of the things that I noticed when I was doing this is that I had a tendency to not put enough soil in this, so it was loose in here. I want it to be tight in here. I suppose I could use an elastic band to keep it tighter, but I use as little equipment as possible. So basically I determined that if I get the soil on here thick enough, then it fits nice and tightly in here. So I'm going to turn down the camera down now so that you can see me working with it here. Okay. All right, so you get your strip. I found that this worked perfectly. It's just a strip from the large food bag. And let me see. I guess I probably should have measured this in advance for you guys. It looks like it's about 3 feet long. That's probably what it's right. Of course, I don't have a measuring tape out here, but I think this is about 3 feet long. And I make sure I'm using really good moist soil, and I start laying it on there and rolling as I go. Now I want to make sure that it's good and moist and it's good and packed on there and nice and thick. Okay, and I'm rolling, putting it on nice and thick. Put more soil than you think you're going to need because it's easier to take it away than it is to add more later. It's kind of fun too. Oh, I think I got it right. It looks like it's going to fit perfectly in here. Look at that. Nice seed snail. So I'm going to place it in here. Oh, it is a little loose, but pretty good. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of extra soil on the outside here to pack it in tight. And I can always put more seeds in there if I want to. Just basically want it to be nice and tight in there. There, I've got a pretty good fit here. This is going to fit over well. One thing I did notice is I did have to keep them wiped pretty clean in order to get that tape to fix on there. So you might want to give this a wipe down with a dry cloth before trying to put your tape on. Okay, so now you see how to create that seed snail. And I'm going to just plant these babies up. I'm going to use a longer variety here. I think it would be a bit of a cheat if I went with one of the shorter varieties because I really am testing the limits of this method. So I chose a bit of a longer variety. And as with all winter sowing, you do want to make sure you have really nice pre-moistened soil. It's really important that you have that so that you'll get good germination. One of the errors that a lot of people make with their winter sowing is they over sow initially. So I am going to do an extremely light sprinkle in the one that I'm going to do the standard winter sowing in. And then I'm also going to sprinkle lightly. Now I could individually plant all of these seeds in the spirals and in these lines, but honestly with carrots that's pretty tricky. And one of the reasons I do winter sowing is because I don't want to spend a lot of time and effort when I can take some shortcuts. So I am going to test my method to the fullest and just do light sprinkles in these other experiments as well, just being sure that I'm getting it in all the areas. I'm going to put a little bit more in that seed snail. I want to give it an opportunity to grow well. So as with all of my experiments, I will be posting about this and I'll be giving you guys updates as it comes time for me to open these up. I get asked almost every day, why are you winter sowing so when you still have this wonderful greenhouse to work with? And there's many reasons for that, but one of them is I still do also have a homestead in Springbank, and honestly, this is one of the best methods. This winter sowing method has saved my life there. Because I live in 2 provinces, it's best if I'm able to go away and leave these things to take care of themselves and not leave a whole bunch of work for somebody else to do. And the other reason is I still get great results. Even in the greenhouse here, I plant things in milk jugs all the time if I want to get some good germination. That trapped humidity dome that this provides is amazing for germination. And when you also add the cold stratification to it, you get an excellent end product. I also have another experiment that I can't wait to show you the results of. That experiment is a hybrid of winter sowing with greenhouse growing to get product a lot faster. So I'll show you that one in a little bit after it progresses a little bit further. So now I have all of my little vessels seated up nice and lightly. I am going to add just a nice little, because you want to put these between 1/4 and 1 inch to 1/2 inch down. So I'm going to add a nice little sprinkling of well moistened soil on top. You want to make sure you got good contact between the seeds and the soil and the moisture that's in there. Now that I've got that other layer of soil on top, I'm going to take these up. I've got my little tags in the handle Okay, but I will also label these well. I'm going to use tuck tape on these because I am finding I'm liking that a lot better than duct tape. And then I'm going to go place them out in the snow. I do like to have them in an exposed area where they're going to be exposed to sunlight and they are going to be exposed to precipitation, but a little bit of wind protection. I find that grouping them together out there is also really helpful, particularly when it comes to snow melting too quickly and maybe you're worried you're going to get some early germination. If you keep them grouped together, you got less chance of that happening because they're insulating each other as well. What do you think of this experiment? Personally, I think the seed snail is going to be the winner here. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to experiment along with me, I'd love that. I love it when we can have back and forth about how some of these things are doing. And as always, I hope you'll take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.